For me, it's a terrible double feature Tuesday. Because today I get to see the two movies that's Hollywood's April Fools. And so I got back from Meet the Blacks, and I'm so glad that I had enough points on my rewards card for... yeah, I was able to see it for free, basically. And I still have my free movie ticket for God's Not Dead 2 later today. Meet the Blacks is a spoof movie of The Purge. That's what it is. Mike Epps plays Carl Black. See, it's funny because their name is Black and they're black. But anyway, him and his family lived in a really bad neighborhood of Chicago. Why does it always have to be Chicago? But he manages to get a lot of money, and they move out to Beverly Hills to escape the purge. Because clearly, rich people aren't going to participate in the purge. And so now, during the purge, tons of people want to kill him. People from his past, people in the neighborhood that don't want blacks in the neighborhood, all sorts of people. I knew this movie was going to be bad. It's just one of those movies that it's hard to believe this got a wide release and this actually came to my theater. What else was released in April 1st? God's Not Dead 2. Hello, My Name is Doris was a wide release, which was nice. We didn't get Eye in the Sky, which didn't really look that good, but my sister got it and she said it was really good. But what can I say good about Meet the Blacks? Well, the title's not inherently obvious that it's a spoof movie. Like, it's not 50 Shades of Black, where it takes the 50 Shades of Grey title and then just replaces gray with black. This movie has black in it because it deals with racism and humor about that, which really isn't all that funny in this movie. But I had no idea this was a spoof movie until it came in theaters and I saw the trailer because I was like, okay, well this got a wide release, so I wonder what it's about. And so then I watched the trailer and realized it was a spoof of The Purge. So I guess I have to give the title of the film a little credit because it's not inherently obvious that it's a spoof movie. I mean, that's something, I guess. And the movie tries to have some heart in it. Like, it tries to have this sort of family dynamic where the mother is actually the girlfriend or newly married to Carl Black. And so she's not actually the mother of the children. And so it has that whole dynamic that you would expect where the kids don't really respect her and then she earns their respect throughout the movie while this chaos happens. And so it tries to add some heart and drama to it, but the whole thing is, it's just so forced in this movie that it feels completely out of place. So I have to give some props to the movie for doing that, but at the same time, again, it feels out of place and it feels like a different movie and it just doesn't quite work for me. It doesn't help enhance the movie when the movie is just so bad on every other level. And honestly, I've liked both Purge movies. I feel like I'm one of the only ones that liked the first Purge. But there's plenty of bad to talk about for Meet the Blacks. The worst thing about it is I did not find it funny. Now, maybe some other people will find this funny. Because humor is a very subjective thing. The reason why you like a movie is subjective as well. But yeah, there's going to be some people that like this film. Like, there's people that like Norm of the North. And there are probably people that like 50 Shades of Black and all these other bad movies that have come out this year. No movie is going to be completely hated and no movie is going to be completely loved by every single person on earth. But I did not find this movie funny. I did not laugh a single moment throughout the hour and 34 minutes that I sat in the theater. And I was the only person in the entire theater, so I had the opportunity to talk and look at my phone or do anything, and I just sat there, watched the movie, and didn't say a single word, didn't laugh, didn't do anything but just sort of lean back in my seat and slowly creep down lower and lower and lower as if embarrassed that someone would see me watching this movie. The acting is okay, but it's something you'd expect from a Marlon Wayans movie like Haunted House or Scary Movie or 50 Shades of Black. You know what? This feels like a Marlon Wayans movie without Marlon Wayans. There's even moments where Mike Epps felt like he was trying to be Marlon Wayans and not really doing all that well. Like, there are times where he freaks out and cries and it starts worrying and it almost seemed like he was trying to embody Marlon Wayans when he does it, but Marlon Wayans does it a little better. If you know the kind of acting in spoof movies and you know what spoof movies are like nowadays, you know exactly what you're getting with this movie. To be honest, this movie felt slower than the first Purge. It felt like it took a while to get to the actual action, the actual purge happening as people invade the house. But once that happens, it becomes utter chaos. The movie actually went downhill once the purge stuff happened. Now, if you thought Kevin James was bad as being the president in Pixels, this movie had George Lopez as president, and they called him El Bama. El Bama. That's the extent of humor in this movie. But yeah, during the last 40 so minutes where everyone is converging onto the Black's house to kill them, or more specifically kill Carl Black because he's done some shady things in the past to other people, it becomes so chaotic that you'd expect a person to be there in the scene with them at all times because there's just so many people in this house. And the Black family, they're screaming, they're talking, they're yelling at other people. You'd think they'd all converge from all that sound, but no, they're on the other side of the houses, and there's so many moments where it felt like, shouldn't someone be investigating that sound? I mean, this family's making a lot of noise. You're going to start coming to kill them? Nope. Okay, you're going to stay on the other side of the house and just keep yelling yourself too? Okay. The movie even tries to keep cutting back to these different people that are in the house to show that they're searching for him. But it takes so long to cut back to them and they're still in the same position. It makes it look like they stayed in the same hallway for about 20 minutes. Like, it's ridiculous. Even the whole purge element seemed inconsistent with this movie. Like, this movie is set in a world where there is the purge, yet the Black family, they're still worrying every time they kill a person in self-defense. Like, the purge is happening. You're free to do whatever crime you want in the purge, and they're worried that they're going to get arrested and sentenced for killing people that tried to kill them. It's so ridiculous in this movie. Even the fact that they're not worried about the purge at the beginning of the movie because they're like, oh, rich white people don't purge in Beverly Hills. Sure, they came from a neighborhood where it was bad and the purge must have been absolutely chaotic. So I can kind of understand the safeness that he must feel when he's in Beverly Hills. But at the same time, they're walking down the street in the daylight before the purge, just casually walking around, and all these people are gathering their guns and getting ready for the purge. Hell, they don't even lock up the doors before the purge happens, so everyone just sort of comes into the house freely. Oh, and there's so many people that want him dead in this movie. So much so that they don't even add backstory to these characters until they're first shown on screen. Like, there are a few that are hinted at, but there's about 3 or 4 people in this house that try to kill him, and we don't know who they are, he doesn't know who they are. We have to get a full back and forth dialogue between him and these killers on figuring out who this person is and what he did to piss them off. It was just really irritating. Ultimately, the movie feels completely lazy. It feels lazy and cheap, and it feels like the filmmakers didn't know what they were doing when making the movie. It's almost as if they didn't know how to make a movie. The sound effects and the background stuff is ridiculous. It's almost as if they thought, hey, you know what, we have to have some sort of sound in the background every time, otherwise we just can't have a silent scene with characters talking, because that's not movie making apparently to them. And so almost every scene either has the most generic score you will ever hear in a horror movie or any sort, or it has things going on in the background outside when the purge is happening outside the house. Probably about 85% of this movie, you have noise happening in the background while characters are doing stuff, whether it be music or the purge happening outside. And it's completely distracting. And all the sound effects are so generic that it's clear that they thought we would think it was funny. It's like, oh, it's so generic that it's funny, but it's not, it's just annoying. Mike Tyson is in this movie, and he plays a clown. Yeah, apparently he's pissed off because he gave the Blacks the platinum clown package for a birthday party, but Mr. Black did not pay him. And so he wants to kill Mr. Black because of that. He's got these brass knuckles that are gold, And every time he hits Mike Epps, mostly in the crotch, they get the generic clown nose beeping sound. You know, the honking sound a clown noise makes in cartoons and stuff. They have that sound every time he punches him with gold brass knuckles. I couldn't even enjoy the death that is involved in that scene because it's such bad CGI blood and it squirts on the camera. It's just, it is awful looking. This movie has random animal noises throughout the film. I wish I had a clip that can show you what I'm talking about, but there are animal sounds in this movie. Sometimes when the son made his vampire noise, yeah, the son pretends to be a vampire. He wants to be a vampire, and so he's a vampire in this movie, or dressed up like Dracula. The son will make these vampire noises, and it's your generic monster noise that you hear in other movies, but he's not a monster, he's a kid. And then I think there was one point when it wasn't even the generic monster noise, it was a lion roar. But we also have a chimpanzee squealing or screaming or some sort of monkey screaming during one point in the movie, and I can't remember what it was because I was just so baffled by it. There's a scene where there's wolves howling in the background when it's this generic horror score that I've ever heard during a scene where the daughter finds out that there's someone in her room, which ends up being the boyfriend, kind of like in The Purge. At the very end of the movie, there's an eagle noise when Mike Epps picks up a weapon. But the most baffling animal noise of all in this movie is there's a scene where he's kicking out this girl that gave his wife a manicure, and she wants $100 in cash, but he's like, oh, we'll give you credit, we're not going to give you cash. And so he starts kicking her out. Well, beforehand, he had been harassed by this other guy outside the house, and so when he opens the door and the guy tries to get in, and he's pushing the manicure out to push them both out, I'm not kidding you, I heard an elephant noise. I heard an elephant sound in that scene when he opens the door and the guy tries to come in. Oh, and the movie does this comic book introduction, you know, where it has the characters in comic book art form as he's explaining his backstory and how he got to Beverly Hills. That was really awful to look at. The bad characters die in such horrible ways that it's not funny, and there's one guy that dies by being pushed into a hook. The hook is like your coat hanger sort of thing. You know, like the metal coat hangers where it even has a ball, so it's not really a sharp end to it. It's like a hook with a ball at the end of it. The guy gets stabbed by that, and it actually has blood, and you can see a close-up of it, and you see the ball. It doesn't even have a point tip to it, but somehow stabbed through this guy by gently being pushed. Well, he's not gently pushed, but at the same time, you would need a lot of force to get stabbed by something like that. And it's not nearly enough force in this movie. The movie even tries to end with the possibility of a sequel happening. Not only does it do it, it does it twice in this movie, and both are annoying. The first thing it does is when the movie looks like it's over, it shows a dead body of someone we thought was dead. It shows a close-up of that person's face, and then the eyes open up, and it's that cliched ending of, okay, there's going to be a sequel because the bad guy's still alive. Then the title, Meet the Blacks, pops up, and I'm thinking, alright, it's the end of the movie, and I start getting up. Well, then a scene happens, and it says, 1 month later. And I'm thinking, okay, I better watch it, and so I start watching it, and it tries to set up a franchise with Meet the Blacks and other horror movie films. And so it tries to set up a spoof of Friday the 13th with the Black family and Jason Voorhees wanting to kill them. This is set up at the end of the movie, and it was even more annoying than seeing a dead character still alive. This is really hard for me because as much as I hate 50 Shades of Black and how much I think that is one of the worst movies of this year, I have to say, Meet the Blacks for me was even worse. It felt even lazier, and it didn't have Marlon Wayans in it. I'm going to give Meet the Blacks absolute zero. So, have you heard of Meet the Blacks? Did you see Meet the Blacks? Did you actually go out into theaters to watch it? If so, what did you think about it? If not, what is the worst horror movie parody or spoof you have ever seen? And if you like this video, please subscribe and check out my movie reviews of 2015 and 2016 movie reviews. As always, this is Bruce Gifford, and this was Just My Opinion.